helped them, drastically change their situation, whatever, that you remember that? I mean, there's things that you might do on a daily basis. You give somebody a ride or something like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about where you actually drastically change somebody's life. Okay? Maybe once every 5 years. I mean, think about the average person's life, okay? How often do they do that, okay, in a given, unless they're maybe like, maybe if you're a nurse or a doctor, or maybe it's more often, but the average person, how much do they really, really, really impact an individual's life? So few times I would suggest to you that they can actually remember them. Now contrast that to Primerica. We actually get to do that like every day if we want to. I was thinking about this. I've got a client named Hazel. Hazel, I met, and she was retired on Social Security. And Hazel was getting $80 a month from her investment, okay? I wouldn't call it an investment, it was in a bank. Getting like no interest rate. And Hazel had stopped living. Hazel basically was a shut-in, even though she was healthy, she was vibrant, she was, okay? But she couldn't afford to do anything. By the time she paid her rent, her food, her groceries, and so on, it was gone. She'd actually stopped going to her grandkids' birthdays because she couldn't afford gifts. I met Hazel, and we were able to put her money that was in the bank, we put it over in investment, and it increased her monthly money that she got from $80 a month to $500 a month. Now that may not seem like a lot, $400, actually $400 a month, anybody's budget would be pretty good, right? Right. But it completely changed Hazel. Okay, I talked to her like 6 months later, and she was going on field trips with the senior citizens group. She had just got back from a Reds game. I think they had too much wine or something to drink. She was talking about she'd taken up clogging or some kind of dancing or whatever, and she was going to see every one of her grandkids' birthdays, even the ones that were out of town. Tell me Primerica didn't change her. What comes to my mind is Sharon. Sharon had 3 boys when her husband died in the first Desert Storm. And she got a small check from the government, but she got a big check from Primerica. And last time I checked with Sharon, okay, the kids had grown up, they'd gone on to college, paid for by Primerica. She never had to get a job outside the home, okay? So her kids didn't lose 2 parents. Because that's really what happens 99% of the time. If a breadwinner dies, okay, the surviving spouse has to take on 2 or 3 jobs, okay, move outside of that neighborhood, change that whole life. So the kids not only lose one of their parents, they lose the other parent, they lose their whole environment. We changed life. I'm thinking of David and Lisa. David and Lisa had tremendous amounts of debt. Okay, the stress that came from that. Dave and Lisa, because of our Debt Watcher program, debt stacking, got out of debt. In fact, they improved their credit score by over 100 points. Okay, and think about living debt-free. What would that do to the average family? I mean, probably wouldn't have to do staycations. You could actually do vacations, right? Okay, how many parents could spend more time with their kids if they didn't have a massive amount of debt and had to go service that through jobs and second jobs? I'm thinking of Gary and Teresa. Gary and Teresa 30 years ago were LPNs, okay? And he was an aquatics director. Total household income about $28,000 a year. How many people in the financial industry would have sat down with a Gary and Teresa on an income of $28,000 a year and taught them how money works? Gary and Teresa are worth $2.5 million today because of Primerica. See, we get that feeling that most people only get every 5 or 10 years. We can have that feeling every single day. I would suggest to you, there's no one in America staying up late at night worrying about what kind of energy drink they're going to drink the next morning. What kind of diet, whatever, they're going to start the next. They may think about it, but they're not worrying about it. And I promise you, you don't find what's significant for people unless you find out what they're worrying about. Don't know of a single human being that's staying up late at night worrying about what utility company they're going to switch to the next day. But I promise you, there are hundreds and millions and millions and millions of people staying up late at night worried about their money. I promise you, there are millions of kids going to sleep tonight crying because their parents are fighting again about money. How many divorces could we stop if we help people with their money? See, what we do is just not some little thing. I would suggest you, it's probably one of the top 3 things that people worry about. And we have the answers to deliver for that family. We have to go through life changing people's lives. I mean, what would it feel like, okay, to change the world? I mean, think about that, okay? I mean, do you want to change the world? I'm sorry. Do you want to change the world? Yes. We have that ability. One person at a time. Does anybody believe the world wouldn't be changed if we got all of the folks that we in our communities out of debt and financially free? The world would change, wouldn't it?
Yes. Yes.
But it really comes down to this. Nothing's going to change until you change. Your community's not going to change until you change. In fact, it really comes down to 3 words. Change or die. It's true for individuals and it's true for companies. You can have all the goodies that Primerica has to offer. I mean, what Art talked about. Okay, I mean, it's been a great episode. I mean, this has been like probably one of the best events I've ever been to. I mean, the speakers have been, I mean, the communication skills. I mean, would you agree? Okay? Okay, and then you're basically here with Ian and just go over 800,000. I mean, these are magical moments. But magical moments fade unless there's change. If you're willing to grow and change, you can have everything you want in life. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they go, yeah, that just sounds hard. And then let's be very frank, they were being honest, okay, and they were right. It not only does sound hard, it is hard. But I asked them, I go, compared to your life, it doesn't feel that hard. You know what hard to me is? Okay, struggling. You know what hard to me is? Okay, not paying the bills. Okay, not living a dream life. Not going on the vacation that I want. You know what hard to me is? Okay, telling my kids no. Living behind the 8 ball all the time. Going through the treadmill. Somebody else controlling my life instead of me. That's hard. Elizabeth and I worked very, very hard for 4 years. Did anybody sacrifice 4 years? Yeah. I'm not talking about sacrificing your family. I'm not talking about sacrificing your time with your God. But I am kind of talking about sacrificing everything else. Would it be worth you sacrificing for 4 years so for the rest of your life you can have it all? We went from $50,000 a year to $1 million a year from that 4 years worth of work. Think about that. I don't have time to tell you, go through the millions of things we screwed up, okay, but I promise you if I did, you'd go, wow, that guy could go from 50 to $1 million. I'm in like Clint. So what are your dreams? See, it starts with a clarification of purpose. It doesn't start with a meeting. Okay? Now, hopefully this meeting is a catalyst for you to decide what your purpose is. Why do you want to do it? It's not going to happen by accident. It's not going to happen without a lot of work. And in order for it to be a lot of work, you got to kind of know why you're doing it. Otherwise, you just kind of exit stage left, right? I promise you, we're going to take a look at the financial picture. I promise you, there's going to be wealth created beyond your imagination for the leaders of Primerica over the next 5 to 10 years. But that does not mean you're going to achieve your dreams. You have to decide what you're here for. What kind of car do you want to drive? What kind of school do you want your kids or grandkids to go to? Where do you want to live? Where's your house going to look like? Do you want to be debt-free? Do you want to be financially no stress? Do you want to change the world? Do you want to have a life of significance? Do you want to retire your parents? Do you want freedom? The only thing separating you from your dreams is change. As I mentioned, it's going to take work. There are going to be challenges. There are going to be sacrifices. There's a professor, I don't know if you guys remember the individual a number of years ago that got terminal cancer, I think it was, professor, and he recorded a video that he wanted to have played to his kids when they became of age, okay, kind of life's lessons. In part of that video, he said, he was talking about adversity, he said, the brick walls in life are there for a reason. The brick walls are not there to keep us out. The brick walls are there to give us a chance to show how badly we want something. The brick walls are there to stop the people who don't want it bad enough. See, everyone's going to go through challenges. Everybody's going to have obstacles thrown if they're going to go after their dream. You've got to decide what your dreams were. Napoleon Hill says, before great success comes, you will surely meet temporary defeat. In Galatians it says, let us not become weary of doing good, for at the proper time we will reap the harvest if we don't give up. See, my question is, are you going to go after your dream life? If you are, you're going to have to change. It's not luck. Okay? Does anybody believe, Jay-Z and Beyonce, do you think they just woke up one day and got lucky? Taylor Swift just got lucky? Or did they change? There are lots of people that probably when they were younger could play or sing like as good as them, but those folks didn't change. Mark Zuckerberg, college dropout. Did he have to change to build something like Facebook? I was looking at the Forbes 400. These are the 400 wealthiest people in America. And do you know the majority of them are first-generation wealth? Which means they grew up in the exact same environment as you and I. Family is probably as dysfunctional as all of ours. And if they hadn't decided to change, they would have ended up like everybody else in their family. But they decided to make a change, and hence that's why now they're billionaires and they live a dream life, and we say, oh wow, wouldn't it be great? So let's just talk real quickly about some change. If you're going to accomplish your dreams, you're going to have to be what I call live above the line. Let me just tell you what above the line is, okay? Above the line is intentional, on purpose, skillful, deliberate actions. Here's where I want to be, and here's what I'm going to do to accomplish that. Most people don't like it. That's structure, right? I'm willing to be structured for a while to be unstructured for the rest of my life. Most people aren't. Below the line, of course, is the path of least resistance. That's impulsive, that's autopilot, that's resistance, little skills, winging it, and that always produces failure. Have you figured that out? If I wing my relationships, how do they turn out? Okay? If I wing my career, how does it turn out? Anything you've won, okay, that's a word, okay, doesn't turn out well. And it begins with how you respond to what happens to you. 90% of the world, that's broke. What happens to them defines them. So in their brain, the people that are successful just had good things happen to them. In fact, there's a phrase that 100% of the population is self-made, but only the successful will admit it. What the successful do is take what happens to them, and they have a different response than everybody else. The non-successful take what happens and go, oh crap, that sucks, and then they bitch about it, and then they go on and just do everything like they were doing it. The successful folks, or excuse me, the future successful folks, make a different interpretation of what happens to them. So let's just give you a couple suggestions in our last few minutes. Number one, when things happen, when situations happen, you have an event and you have your response. And those two determine your outcome. You can't control the events of the world, right? You can't control what happens to you, but you most certainly can control your response. So first thing I'd recommend you do is you pause for a second. Because most of the time, your instinctive reaction is the wrong thing. How many of us have had an instinctive reaction that we have later felt like we probably need to apologize for, right? If you're a male, like most of your life. So we already know that system doesn't work, right? Now the pause might be 1 second, it might be 1 minute, it might be an hour, it might be a day, but there is a constant pause. What does the situation require of me? I put down here, help me keep myself from doing something stupid. Number two, get your mind right. Manage what you focus on. Manage how you talk to yourself. Number three, step up. Number four, adjust and adapt. And number five, build skills. We don't determine our success, we determine our habits, and our habits determine success. Let me just tell you what's firing me up right now, and then I'll end. You've all heard of the wall of wealth, right? Near as I can tell, wall of wealth is the baby boomers' parents are passing on, leaving inheritances, and that was the generation that actually accumulated money. Okay, they're Depression age era generation and so on. In addition to that, the baby boomers have 401ks and things of that nature that when they retire. So it's trillions and trillions of dollars. I don't have time to go through the numbers with you, but it basically works out to you. If you go become a VP and you go build, a decent sized office, you could have $200,000 to $300,000 in residual income just purely from that. 10 years from now. Anybody like to have $200,000 or $300,000 that come in every okay? Wouldn't be a bad gig, right? Well, I'll preface that. I told you last time I talked about there's a 50,000 financial advisor void in the marketplace, and the baby boomers are coming, the millennials are coming through, and the average financial advisor is retiring in the next 10 years, and it leaves this huge void in the market for people to help other people at the very time we have the largest generation in the history of our country coming through. In addition to that generation I just talked about, the millennials, they're going to have $22 trillion in assets 5 years from now. Are you at the right place at the right time? The last thing I'll end with, the CEO was just at a conference call, I don't know, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and he talked about two products. I'm not going to go into them because I'm out of time. But those two products over the next 2 to 3 years will increase the average vice president's income, which, by the way, is pretty staggering already, right? By 50%. 25 years ago, somebody told me, we're going to be just like a McDonald's owner if you're a VP. Every so many years, okay, if you build a great big business, the company's going to come along and add something. For those of you that are old like me, you remember the time when McDonald's didn't have breakfast. Added breakfast, the average McDonald's franchise owner's income grew by $50,000 a year, doing almost nothing different. Then McDonald's added specialty coffee, and then they added, now they're doing breakfast all day. Everything is added. You've got this machine, this business machine that passes on from generation to generation, and every time they add another 50 grand to your income for doing basically the same thing. You understand that's what you have right now? Go become a VP like now. Appreciate your time.